In this video, we are going to talk a little bit about some different immune disorders. Essentially, the immune system works in a careful balance between doing too much and doing not enough. So claims of something boosting your immune system isn't necessarily good if your immune system is already working efficiently, because a too active immune system can be just as bad and sometimes worse than an immune system that's not as active as it would need to be. So we'll look at some immune disorders that are related to deficiencies in the immune system, and then we'll talk about some times when the immune system responds over its needed amount that results in some problems. So inherited immunodeficiencies include things like the severe combined immunodeficiency disease. There are many different genetic defects that can lead to these inherited immunodeficiencies. But whatever the genetic defect, it's usually caused by something that will affect both B and T cells. Prognosis for these diseases is usually less than 1 year, and really the only treatment for it is a bone marrow transplant, since this is going to allow the individual to build an immune system. So individuals with this disease usually die of opportunistic infections that they have, that normally would be something able to, they would be able to survive. Something that our bodies normally would be able to fight of. So in bone marrow transplants, the individuals are given a bone marrow transplant from a healthy donor intravenously, and where it finds its way to the bone where it populates it, eventually reconstituting the immune system. There are some new treatments involving gene therapy, inserting the non-defective genes into cells that are taken directly from the patient and giving them back, having the advantage that you don't need to have a tissue match like you would with bone marrow. In addition to inherited immune deficiencies, there are also acquired immunodeficiency. So acquired immunodeficiency disease, or AIDS, is when you develop an immunodeficiency throughout your lifetime. The most common cause of this is HIV, the human immunodeficiency virus, which is dangerous because instead of just suppressing the immune system, it completely wipes it out, making it so that these opportunistic diseases can infect you. There's been a lot of progress on the treatment of HIV diseases, where when it was first recognized in the 1980s, it was really seen as being something that was a death sentence. But nowadays, it's more of a chronic condition that you can live throughout your life. However, a complete cure has not really been developed, at least in most people. There have been a few cases where sort of a unique situation has led individuals to apparently completely be able to clear out the virus from their system, but those have been very few and very unique situations that wouldn't typically happen. And so we're still doing research trying to develop ways of preventing this disease, and ultimately hoping to cure it for individuals that develop, although that may be many years down the road before a true cure or even a preventative vaccine can be developed. All right, the next type of immune disorder I want to talk about are hypersensitivities. Allergies are a common kind of hypersensitivity, and really they can sometimes be used interchangeably. Although how the hypersensitivities are going to manifest are different from what you would typically think of these histories. So these hypersensitivity simply means that it is sensitive beyond normal levels of activation. These are when the responses to non-pathogenic environmental substances have been observed that you wouldn't normally react to, or react to more strongly than you really would warrant for what is going to do. The hypersensitivities, there is a broad term, and really there are 4 different types that are mainly classified as hypersensitivity. So we'll go through these different types. So type 1 hypersensitivity is called immediate hypersensitivity. It's when caused by mast cells that possess receptors for the Fc portion of IgE. When you have sensitization, you have a allergen-specific production. So the allergen is something that doesn't really warrant immune response, but you still get one. So the allergen-specific IgE production is being produced, and now the Fc receptor is going to bind to the IgE antibody, leading to mast cell degranulation. These can be, this is what you traditionally think of when it comes to allergies. So these are a wide range of levels, where it can be very mild to very severe in the case of anaphylaxis. So you can use skin tests to test allergens and type 1 hypersensitivity. The allergen extracts are going to be injected into the epidermis, and a positive result is going to be when you have a soft pale swelling at the site surrounded by a red zone. That's caused by the histamine release that occurs during degranulation. All right, so that's type 1. Type 2 hypersensitivity is known as antibody-dependent hypersensitivity. So type 2 is going to involve IgE-mediated lysis of cells by complement proteins. So this is what happens when you have the mismatch of blood transfusions. So essentially you have antibody dependent cellular cytotoxicity, because you're recognizing antigens on the non-compatible blood type, which leads to hemolysis and erythroblastosis. Type 3 hypersensitivity occurs when you have soluble antigens accumulate in the blood to a point where the antigen and the antibody are going to precipitate. This commonly will happen along blood vessel linings, and often will lodge themselves in the joints and other organs, where they can activate complement proteins and cause inflammation. And then type 4 hypersensitivities are delayed hypersensitivities. These are basically a standard cellular immune response that involves sensitivity and re-exposure. It's just that these are typically going to be things that you wouldn't need to have an immune response to. So what happens is that activated T helper cells recruit cytotoxic T cells and macrophages to the site of exposure, and because this takes time, it will end up being delayed. This is a common cause of contact dermatitis. So things like latex allergy is an example of this. The nickel allergy, so if you are allergic to nickel, and have cheap jewelry that can cause a reaction on the skin. And poison ivy is another example of this, although not all of it is of the reaction that you have with poison ivy is going to be T cell mediated, and some of it has to do with the toxicity of the oils themselves. All right, this leads us to autoimmune disorders. So autoimmune disorders are like allergies and hypersensitivities in that your body is reacting to something that it shouldn't normally react to. The difference is that in autoimmune disorders, it's reacting to self-proteins. So your self-tolerance breaks down, causing the immune system to attack its own body. Genetic and environmental factors are both going to be involved. So there are certain genetic backgrounds that makes it more likely for you to develop an autoimmune disorder. But ultimately, just having those genetic factors does not necessarily mean that you will get it for sure. And oftentimes these disorders or these autoimmune disorders, the cause, both genetic and environmental, are not completely elucidated. But we do have several common autoimmune disorders that we do know some things about. So celiac disease, the autoantigen is going to be a protein known as tissue transglutaminase that leads to damage in the small intestine. This is due to a reaction that occurs when individuals with celiac disease take in gluten, a protein that you find in wheat and some related plants. Because this somehow triggers the tissue transglutaminase antibodies, the tissue transglutaminase antibodies then damage the small intestine or lead to damage in the small intestine, causing GI symptoms, and oftentimes will result in malnutrition because of reduced nutrient absorption. Type 1 diabetes is another autoimmune disease that attacks the beta cells of the pancreas. This results in low insulin production and the inability to regulate your glucose. So individuals with type 1 diabetes will need to take in insulin that is artificially made outside of the body by some other process. Graves' disease is when you have an antibody that mimics the thyroid stimulating hormone. So you mimics the hormone, stimulates the receptor, resulting in hyperthyroidism. Hashimoto's thyroiditis is also going to involve the thyroid stimulating hormone receptor, but the antibody actually blocks the receptor, leading to hypothyroidism. Lupus is another one that you will hear about. Nuclear DNA proteins are the antigen for this, and it leads to damage of many of the body symptoms, so it is very global in its effects. Myasthenia gravis, this is a condition that's going to result in debilitating muscle weakness because it's going to affect the acetylcholine receptors and the neuromuscular junctions. And then rheumatoid arthritis is going to attack proteins or other antigens in the joint capsule, leading to chronic inflammation of the joints. All right, so this ends our discussion of the immune system. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you next time.